Hello, and thank you for joining me on today's video blog. The topic of today is near and dear to almost everybody looking to buy a new home when they're selling is how do I buy a home before I sell my current home, or is that even an option? So to back up and start, why is this so important to be able to buy a home before you sell a home? Well, number one, it's always nice to know where you're going. And so to have that security of knowing what you're going to go into, that's phenomenal. Number two, if you're selling a home and not living there, that is a lot more convenient. And so to be able to have people come into your house when you don't have to worry about getting the animals out, the kids out, and everything cleaned up, that can really be a benefit for you. But number three, the big one, is that most individuals can't buy a new property until they either sell their property or unlock the equity or use a different program for it. And that's one of the reasons that when you submit an offer on a property, or if you submit an offer and it's contingent upon the sale of your property, that many times sellers just don't look at those as important as an offer that comes in non-contingent. Because if your home is contingent and it falls through, that means that you're gonna have to terminate on that buy side. So how can we go ahead and get around that? So number one is there are loan products that are available so that you can take advantage of purchasing your next property. The first one that we talk to our clients about regularly is look at a home equity line of credit. If you have a lot of equity in your property, you could potentially free up that equity to pull it out of one property and then use it to buy the next property. And then that means you're going to have the down payment that you want, and that you can still be a buyer without the sale of your property. You do, in that scenario, need to qualify for those loans, the loan that you're going to be getting and the loan that you currently have. Some banks can work with you on that, knowing that you're going to sell that property though. So number one, HELOC. Number two on the loans is there are bridge loans, which there are different loan providers that will give you a certain amount of time. And by the way, we have names that we'd be happy to share with you if this is something you're interested in. But they will give you a certain amount of time and they will buy the next property with a lower down payment. And then when you sell your first property that you're living in now, you can take the equity and deposit that. And so then they will adjust. They do what's called a recasting. So they adjust your loan so that the payment of your loan is now based on that new big deposit. So HELOC and a bridge loan are the two most common forms of loans that we do. Every now and then also, we have clients that they will use a lower down payment loan to buy the next property that allows them to sell their current property. And then they can also use that money and, depending on the lender, allow them to recast, which allows them to change their monthly payment based on that new amount of money being deposited. So there are loan products for it. Second big item, there are specialty companies that have come up. Of course, Wall Street and all of these technology companies, they saw an opportunity, they saw a need, and so then there are services out there that are available. One of those companies that we work with regularly is called Homeward. And Homeward has two different programs. One of them is called Sell Before You Buy, and then the other one is the Cash Buyer. The Sell Before You Buy, and different companies have different criteria. So what I'm going to give you now is just an outline, but make sure to check for the specific criteria at the time. A lot of these companies, they will offer you up to about 80 to 85% of the value of your home today based on a realistic but conservative appraisal. So if your home is worth $1 million, that means they may pay you the value of $800,000 to $850,000 today. There's usually a fee in there that they're going to charge because, of course, they need to make their money. But then that means that they're actually buying your house and giving you that equity. But 80, 85%, that seems so low. And you're right, which is why they allow you then, once you buy your next property, you get to list your property with your chosen agent like us. And then when it sells for more than that $850,000, if it sells for that $1 million, then you make the additional spread there. So that's one example, and there are other examples of these companies that do it. And so if you're curious to learn more about that, please let us know. We'd be happy to help. The third way that you can potentially buy before you sell, and this one is a lot more challenging if you're in a really hot market, or if you're in a price point or the subject property you're looking at is really hot. Like right now in Denver, it's really, really hot for entry-level properties that are single-family homes priced from $400,000 to $800,000. Those are selling really, really well. But if you're perhaps a rural property in the $1 million range, a lot of those are not selling quite as well, or properties that need renovations. And that's when you can go to the seller. And if you've got a great agent like us, then we can potentially negotiate an extended closing based on the sale of your property. Some cases, sellers are even willing to do a limited seller financing, where the seller is acting like the bank for you, giving you anywhere from 3 months, 6 months, a year. The first time I did this was actually in a very high-end luxury property. The buyer we were working with, buying in Washington Park in Denver, was selling a house in Park City, and he wanted that house to sell so he'd have another $3 million to put down, and then that would make it so that he could get the loan that he wanted. And the seller selling the house here in Wash Park was like, you know what? I've got my house paid off. I'd be willing to give you a loan for 6 to 9 months at a certain market rate interest rate that makes sense. So the third option here, which can be a little bit more challenging depending on what you're looking at, but it is an option, is to work with the sellers on creating an environment so that you can buy that property. You may not close on it, and sometimes you may, but then it gives you the ability to sell your first property so you don't have to sell first before you buy. So I hope you've got some great value out of today's video call. If you've got questions about this, and I'm sure you do, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to sit down with you and go through all of these different options. These have been game-changing for a lot of our clients, just with the stress that you might go through in selling and not necessarily knowing where you're going to go to. And so we'd love to help you with all of these. And until the next time, stay safe, stay healthy, get out and enjoy some of this nice weather we're having. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video blog.